McClarty?
Yes, it does.
Mr. McClarty simply was seeking information. He did not suggest that policy be changed in any way, did he?
No, he did not.
Mr. McClarty did not suggest that a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and the President should be scheduled, did he?
No, he did not.
Mr. McClarty did not suggest that the administration should support Mr. Tamraz's project?
No, he did not.
You and Mr. McClarty did not discuss contributions in that conversation, did you?
No.
And I think you testified in your deposition that Mr. McClarty absolutely didn't mention contributions or figures. You were pretty convinced that that was not discussed in any way, right?
Yes, it was not discussed in any way.
And is it also safe to assume that you have never seen Exhibit 1168, which was shown to Mr. Carter?
Yes, I've never seen that.
Mr. McClarty testified that he did not know whether Mr. Tamraz had contributed. You don't have any reason to dispute that claim, do you?
I do not.
Mr. McClarty also testified that he had no knowledge of any pledges for future contributions. You have no reason to doubt that, do you?
I have no reason to doubt that.
And in fact, Mr. Tamraz, you testified in your deposition that you didn't make any pledges for future contributions. Is that right?
Not at all. You're talking about this 400,000? Not at all, and I just don't understand why Sheila Hasland thought that the President needed her permission in order to raise this money. I mean, we were huddling there. If we wanted an appointment, he would have told me, come tomorrow for a golf game. It could have been expensive, but we could have done it. So all this rigmarole doesn't stand at all.
And you didn't make any pledges for future contributions?
I did not. I had made enough. I was not looking for any meetings. I was not looking for anything.
So, Mr. Simpson, would you agree that if Mr. Tamraz never made a pledge for a future contribution, it's not real likely that you and McClarty discussed a pledge for a future contribution?
I would certainly agree with that statement.
Now, Mr. Simpson, given that you and Mr. McClarty did not discuss political contributions, can we assume that you never told Mr. Carter that Mr. McClarty and you discussed contributions?
We did not discuss those things, and I did not explain that.
And after you spoke to Mr. McClarty, you did speak to Mr. Carter, but you did not tell Mr. Carter that there was any contribution pledge. Is that right?
That's correct.
And did you tell Mr. Carter that you wanted to set up a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and the President?
No, I did not.
Did you tell Mr. Carter that Mr. McClarty wanted to set up a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and the President?
No, I did not.
Did you tell Mr. Carter that Mr. McClarty wanted special consideration of the Tamraz project because Mr. Tamraz was a contributor?
No.
To your knowledge, you're the only one who spoke to Mr. Carter before he spoke to Ms. Heslin, is that right?
That's all, to my knowledge, yes.
Now, we heard testimony yesterday from Ms. Heslin, who claimed that Mr. Carter pressured her to change the administration policy and pushed for a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and the President. If Mr. Carter said such things to Ms. Heslin, would you agree that Mr. Carter was acting without the authority of Mr. McClarty or anyone else in the administration?
Yes.
Now, the chairman also mentioned earlier press allegations and discussion yesterday as to whether or not there was a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and Secretary O'Leary, and has already noted the fact that Mr. Tamraz has denied that any such meeting occurred. You've also looked into this situation, have you not, Mr. Simpson?
Yes, I have.
Could you describe for us what you... it was some time ago, actually. It was probably a month or two ago after you got some press calls about...
It was, well, it was several months ago, and we looked into it when we got phone calls from the, I believe it was the Wall Street Journal in March, which was the first night that this issue came to my attention. We did a thorough check of the department's records to see if Mr. Tamraz had been in at any time, and we discovered the June 15th meeting, and that was the one that he had with Mr. Carter that's been discussed. And that's the only record of Mr. Tamraz ever having entered the Department of Energy. So that's the search that we made.
And in the search, you checked all of the exit and entry records for the Department of Energy?
Yes.
And did you also cause to be searched Secretary O'Leary's personal calendar?
Yes, we had Secretary O'Leary's personal calendar checked as well.
And in all of those records, there's no indication that there was ever a meeting between Mr. Tamraz and Secretary O'Leary. Is that right?
That is correct. There is no record.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Okay, we reserve balance of our time.
Senator Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tamraz, I'd like to ask you some questions about the now famous Bob at the CIA, a man who will forever be known by his first name by this committee. You knew that Bob worked at the CIA, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give Don Fowler, the DNC chair, Bob's complete name as well as his phone number at the CIA in October of 1995?
I'm sure I gave him his first name and the phone. I'm not sure if I gave him the complete name.
I'd like to put up an exhibit. It's number 1141, and it's Don Fowler's notes from a meeting that he had with you. Do you see the highlighted section where it says go to the CIA, Bob, and then it has a black spot over the Bob's last name?
Yes.
These are his notes. The last name was written there, and it obviously has been blacked out to protect Bob's privacy. So clearly this is the result of your conversation with Mr. Fowler, and you did in fact give him both Bob's first and last names.
Yes, it seems like it, yes.
The CIA has told this committee that it's illegal for Bob's full name to be revealed in public. In fact, although I'm a United States Senator and have access to classified information, I don't know Bob's last name. Why were you given classified information, sensitive information, to the head of the DNC who had no access, no clearance to receive this information?
The only reason I can give you is that the only person who could give information about me would have been Bob.
So you were asking the head of the DNC to call Bob for a reference for you, and you felt that it was appropriate for you to give him Bob's complete name as well as his work number at the CIA, despite the fact that that information is not supposed to be public. It's in fact illegal to reveal that information.
Well, it was not to get any reference. It was to check whether Bob would send any information to the NSC.
Let me put Exhibit 1144 up. These are Bob's notes or his memo to the file after he received the call from Don Fowler. In the second sentence of this paragraph, he refers to a call that he'd had from you, Mr. Tamraz, on October 18th